All right. This is not my normal kind of video. You guys know I like to just drop information. I guess this is information in a certain way because this is something I really would love for this community to get right so that the community has the right and, puts themselves in a position to ask the developers for what they need, right? So, I'm just opening the chat because I want to hopefully get some people in the chat to discuss this topic because this is definitely this is definitely a sore area for 2K My Team right now. I almost went to my career. This is definitely a sore area for 2K My Team right now because the token reward situation is in a bad place, right? Like we all know that. That's a no-brainer. As you see here, I'm on my personal account. So I can. Oh yeah, I got some auctions. Let's go. A. So, and this is how you make MT. You sell your resources. So, all right. Before I get into it, I'm gonna let you guys file in. Just on a channel update level, I do want to do a little mini. I don't know if I want to call it a series, but I'm gonna do a little episode, maybe a couple of episodes, where I take my old account, which I haven't touched in months, and I take the resources from it and I build an entire new team with whatever MT I have left over. It'll probably be somewhere, but I don't know what the MT is gonna be like. It's gonna be like between 100 and 200K or whatever. But we'll go from there and try to build the best team possible based on that amount from scratch. See what that team looks like, which is interesting because the interesting thing about that and why I'm not just straight up dumping on 2K. This isn't about me dumping on 2K or anything. This is about us as a community doing what we can to get the most out of the situation. We're gonna get more into that as I continue in the discussion. But the idea is to fix the situation. So in order to fix the situation, we have to talk about the problem, right? So the problem, what's up, Average Human Life, B. Wilson? So the problem on its surface is that the tokens are an entire currency, right? And it's competing currency with the other two currencies, which are VC and MT. And the only way to spend your tokens is from this screen right here. For anybody who's new to my team or refreshed, they can get that information right there. And it's to buy these players. 100% of these players are considered outdated. And 99% of these players are considered worthless. Like if we were to actually do the math, there's 30, 20 is 50, 70, 90, 112, and I don't know how many's in the diamond market, but whatever these are, there are about 4 to 5 players. I would say maybe 6 players at a maximum that are considered usable by the community. So there's only so many places for your tokens to go when it comes to the token rewards, right? I mean, so we know that already. And then in the token market, everything is also severely outdated. So right now, the tokens are a very weak currency. And what this causes, and so that in and of itself is not a problem. Because if tokens are just a worthless currency that no one cares about, then we just wouldn't do. What's up, Randolph Truitt? If tokens are worthless and we don't care about tokens at all, then the solution to that is extraordinarily simple, right? We just don't use tokens. You say, oh no, tokens are trash, leave them alone. But here's the problem. Locking in these sets gets you tokens. And in order to lock in these sets, you have to spend one of the other two currencies, right? So a lot of people are locking in these sets, and a lot of the market is driven off of the faith that 2K is going to make the token market relevant, and then all of your hard work of going into your collector levels and completing those collections and locking in your sets is going to be worth it when they put, whoever, Giannis at the point guard in the token market. I did it. It's a good thing I had 4,000 tokens, right? I can buy all of the Galaxy Opals they flooded the market with. Now, if that doesn't happen, and they do what they've been doing, which is they really put barely relevant players in that are outdated almost immediately, right? So if they do that again, then the tokens are not at all going to be worth it. And as we get further and further into the year, that's more hours and MT and VC that the MyTeam community has wasted on the token market, which And the later we get in the year, the less relevant it's possible for it to be, because now we've gotten to a place where the balance of the game is such that if you don't have certain badges, obviously mostly clamps and quick draw, which many of these cards don't have, you can't even play those cards competitively. And everyone knows this, right? Everyone's aware of it. And I respect everybody at 2K. I respect the job that they all try to do. But the bottom line is, because they don't have a community manager and because this is a heavily monetized mode, there's certain things that they cannot speak about freely. Right? So one thing I saw, and this is not slander against Robbie, he has no choice but to be in this position. So this isn't slander. But one thing he said in response to one of the questions was, they were like basically asking him, hey, token cards suck. Is there any plans to make them relevant? And he said something to the effect of, we try to make the game so that you can play what's right for you. That's a company line answer. Listen, guys, I work for Marvel and DC, Disney. I've worked for Hasbro. I'm very, very familiar with what company lines sound like. And this is basically a don't get fired response. And I don't want Robbie to get fired, so I want him to give a don't get fired response. However, that doesn't mean that a don't get fired response is good enough. It's not Robbie's job. We don't even know specifically what Robbie's job is in its entirety, right? So we don't know whose job it is to put out the token market, to fix the token market, to fix the token rewards, to update them and all of that stuff. We know nothing. And that is the problem. Again, having bad token rewards cards is completely irrelevant. That's just a bad currency. It's in many games, many MMOs, many, quasi MMOs and stuff like that have a currency that just turns out to be worthless, and they update it and they fix it, right? They either fix it or they eliminate it. So if tokens were flat out not worth anything, that's not a problem at all. The problem is that people think tokens might be worth something. And so they're spending real life money and real life time on getting these token rewards or getting these tokens so that they can be eligible for the day that the tokens become relevant. And that's the thing where the community has to get on the same page. And when I say the same page, we have to demand better communication about in-game currencies in this game. The token currency is too big of a deal, is too integral to the entire, economy of 2K MyTeam to simply not know whether or not it's going to be worth anything. I see so many people investing into tokens, thousands of tokens, right? And they have no idea whether or not their time or their money is going to be returned. If they can possibly never update the token market. And at this point, I feel like we've passed the point where it's reasonable in terms of in the year. We're halfway through this cycle of 2K. We're in March now. We start to look for information in June. So this means if they updated the token market today and made it relevant today, that would mean we would have roughly 3 months of that token currency having value out of the entire year before you start looking towards 2K21, right? I personally don't think that that's adequate communication with the community. I don't think that that's a good place for us to be in. And so the thing that we need to ask for is just better communication. And if you ask for that communication in a reasonable and polite way, then 2K is, if they don't give you an answer, it's very clear what the non-answer is. But if you get angry about it, if you drag guys like Robbie and whoever, through the mud on Twitter and so on and so forth, and you spam them in the the two brothers, the budget ballers videos and stuff like that. If you do all that kind of stuff, then he has every right to say, hey, I try to talk to the community, but they're really toxic, And I'm not saying he says that, but many developers of many games have said that before, and that's an out that you can always take when the community is being toxic. And there's a lot of issues in my team, and my channel isn't about complaining about all of those issues. My channel is definitely about taking what's good in the game and what's fun in the game and making the most out of it, right? But the thing is, with the token reward, that's not about how much fun I'm having in the game, or what's good about the game, or what's not good about the game. That's about the fact that at the very minimum, we should be able to expect a level of communication from not just Robbie, but from 2K in general. And that's it. And if you can get on the same page about that, and people are just like, you have to communicate with us about the token market over and over again, if that's like the single line, I'm telling you, no matter how big a game is, right? No matter how popular a game is, when the community gets on the same page about a particular issue, that issue gets fixed. Right? So when you guys talk about the token market, don't ask for every card to get clamps. Don't ask for every card to get range extender or whatever it might be. That's irrelevant. What we really need is just communication, because the thing is, if they can show up in the 11th hour and make the cards relevant, give them all Hall of Fame everything, and that would fix it for that day. But then next year, you'll be dealing with the same problem again. But if as a MyTeam community, you're on the same page, and you politely, reasonably, in your adult inside voice, basically are like, hey, what you do with the token market is one thing, but holding the token market hostage as an entire economy is not acceptable, then when people don't get a response from that and they become toxic, I can then talk to these guys, and any YouTuber or anybody who knows any of the devs can say, hey, look, the community for a week straight, for a month straight, was just like, hey, can we get some communication about this? You refused to communicate, and then they became toxic. So now you can't complain about the toxic 2K community. You can't talk about how tough it is that they act this way, how the MyTeam community is, because they tried to talk to you, and you closed the door, you hung up the phone over and over again. Now look, they could be updating the token market right this very second. So my concern isn't whether or not the token cards are good or bad. My concern is the fact that they can sit back for almost for half of a year and not say anything about an entire currency in game. And the thing about, and again, this is not against Robbie. I think Robbie is a solid ambassador for the MyTeam community. He does the best job that he can, considering that 2K doesn't have a real community management structure and policy. That handcuffs everybody, because you're limited to saying, you can only speak in this mystery area, this ghost area of topics, because so much of it is tied up into somebody else's department, somebody else's call. Right? Robbie is not the overlord of MyTeam. So he literally cannot tell you anything he wants to. There might even be some things that he actually personally doesn't have answers for. Just because he works at 2K doesn't mean he magically knows everything. 2K is practically its own city. There are hundreds of people working at 2K. All right? It is not a room full of people or a building full of people. It is buildings, plural, of people working on this game in various departments. So I'm never an advocate towards going after one particular developer saying they did this and they did that. There are teams of people working on every subdivision of this game. So it's not about going after Robbie or what Robbie said and what Robbie did and did not do. However, I have to highlight the problem with what Robbie said. And this is the problem with what Robbie said. It was extremely condescending towards the community, right? We all know what the meta is. My entire channel is based off of what the meta is. And you guys have supported this channel in part because it's a discussion that we can all relate to. So when you speak to the community, especially the community who's listening to you, right? The most casual player who just gets their favorite players and has no idea what clamps is, I'm sure that person exists because there's a lot of people who play 2K. That person is not the person watching Robbie in a MyTeam tournament. Right? The people watching the MyTeam tournament are the relatively core community. I'm not even going to say hardcore community. I'm going to say the core community. The people who all know what the good cards are, what the bad cards are, and why you're a crazy person if you do anything to spend your tokens right now. So when Robbie says to us, hey, you can use whatever cards you want. Some people like these cards, some people like those cards. Again, my whole channel is based off of that. That's a ridiculous premise, Robbie. And this is all due respect. Like, I understand why you're put in a position to say that, but even with that, we have to be honest about this dialogue, right? That's not a sufficient response because those cards are objectively outdated. They're outdated cards. So the token reward market is completely irrelevant The token rewards are completely irrelevant, and the token market is also completely irrelevant. The only thing relevant about the token, you know, and this goes back to what I'm saying about them holding it hostage, right? If we knew that the token at this point in the year, after the token market has been updated, if we knew, hey, nothing good is ever going to come, we're only going to update stuff after it's completely outdated, tokens are just a way for you to retrieve some MT for playing the game. It's just another way to get MT and to fill out your collections at this point in the year. I'm fine with that. I don't care. Like, I don't care what's in the token market. I care that people think that the token market might turn into something that it never turns into. And other people might think, well, the tokens are never going to get updated, so I'm not going to invest into them. And then those people are screwed because those people would wisely have said at some point throughout the year, you know what? These token rewards have never been updated. I need this empty. I have a whole bunch of tokens I'm sitting on. It's more worth it for me to rip packs or go to the auction market with my MT that I get from spending my tokens on those nearly worthless packs than it is for me to sit around and wait for you guys to update it. And then they update it, and everybody who made that decision has completely blasted their own economy. They've completely wasted, so much time that they've put into earning a currency that only comes from playing the game. Right? Outside of locking in sets, it mostly comes from playing TTO, playing Domination, playing Triple Threat offline, playing MyTeam Unlimited. So, for you to get that reward and not know what it's worth, that's the problem that the community should not stand for. That's the problem that people need to fix, and that's where we need to say, hey, we just want communication on this. Not asking you for an update. I'm not asking for, a Kobe Bryant card in the token reward market. No. We're just saying talk to us. That's it. We deserve that. People are spending their time and their money in this mode. They're putting their attention into this mode. And the more you communicate with your community, the better that community is equipped to behave. But if a community is hearing nothing for months and months and months on end about an in-game currency, and that's currency with a capital C, then the community is not equipped to behave themselves because the community is huge. And I'm sorry if somebody rips, such and some odd money on packs and all they get is a bunch of silvers and bronzes and they complete their token rewards and they're like, well, at least the tokens will one day be worth something. And the tokens never become anything. They never get a silver lining for opening those packs and wasting their VC or MT. And you never told them that that would happen. That's just wrong. Like, that's just wrong. And the MyTeam community deserves better than that. And quite frankly, the developers working on MyTeam deserves better than that because they're the ones who are going to feel it. And the insidious thing behind this is we all know what may be the case. I'm not saying this is the case. It's not insider info or anything like that. I'm just saying this is a reasonable conclusion to draw. They don't want to update the tokens because they don't want to compete with cards that you can pay for. Right? Like, that would be the simple conclusion to draw. Hey, the only reason you guys are keeping an entire in-game currency as next to worthless is because you know that there's people that when you drop Galaxy Opal, who gives a damn, they're going to throw $50, $100, $300 at this game mode. And a lot of those people wouldn't do that if Galaxy Opal Kevin Durant was a token reward, right? Then they would just be grinding those packs, or if he was in the token market, they would be grinding tokens so that they could grab that Kevin Durant. They wouldn't be just throwing a paycheck at you. Now, again, I don't know if that's the case. It could just be a technical issue. It could literally be we would love to update the token market, but we're having some setbacks in that right now. We know what it looks like, but it's really unfortunate, and we're working on it to get it done. Trust us, we're not just sitting on our laurels. There's people paid full-time, 6 figures a year to fix this issue, and we're working on it. We apologize. That's one thing, right? Hey, guys, the token rewards in the token market is not meant for that. It's just kind of a little side thing so that you get a little extra something for your playing time. That's fine too. Hey guys, coming later in the year, the token reward is going to be big, so stay tuned. It's going to be super tight. Also cool. Radio silence, that's unacceptable. And the reason it concerns me is because it's just going to make the MyTeam community worse. And through making this channel and dealing with you guys, I know I'm not the biggest YouTuber in the world, but this channel has grown a decent amount in a very short amount of time, and you guys have shown a lot of love. I know that the MyTeam community is not filled with toxic people, but I have enough experience with other communities to know that bad developer behavior can create a more toxic environment. And I think there's a lot of things you can say 2K does that creates a toxic environment. But what they're doing with the My Team thing, with the tokens, I think that is definitely something that if it turns out the wrong way throughout the year, we could see a really poor result from the community because of the way they have, found a lack of communication. And you could, because a lot of people are definitely, this is basically guaranteed, a lot of people are going to look at it like, you milked us for tokens all year on the promise that they would be worth something, and we got cards that were relevant for about 2 weeks all year. That was all you ever did for the tokens. We had David Robinson, who was a Galaxy Opal really early in the year. You took forever to update Penny. You took forever to update Grant Hill. All of the diamonds were horrible until you put in Ryder and Brooke Lopez, and they were just, average for a minute, and basically everything else was terrible. And you milked us, had us buying all these worthless cards to fill out these token sets, and then I sat here all year waiting for it, never got paid out. You never updated the token rewards. You didn't say anything, the whole time. Yeah, Odom's Killer Crossover is ridiculous. This card is still fantastic, by the way. I don't think Odom is an outdated card. I'm thinking of making a video on him because he's just so good. So that's what I wanted to communicate to you guys, to the MyTeam community, is just take it upon yourselves to. I mean, Robbie and the MyTeam Twitter are the ones that they say to communicate with. But when you do it respectfully, do it intelligently, but demand the same thing: communication. That's the problem with the token rewards, is the communication. It's not anything else but the lack of communication. If they communicate, everybody knows what to do with their money. Right? If you tell me a stock is going to be really bad, I know exactly what my investments should look like. If you tell me a product is only going to perform at a certain level, I know exactly where to place that product in its importance. But if you tell me nothing, and I'm, partially thinking, oh, hey, you might update this one day, that's not a great place to be. Because then, well, quite frankly, I think it's too late in the year for them to update it and have the token rewards have been a good thing, like overall across the board. But they're still in a place right now where if they update it really soon, you can say, okay, it was worth it. You played the long play, but it was worth it. Because it does take time to acquire tokens, right? But it's getting to a very short period. Look, guys, we're in March. If they don't update the tokens, the token rewards, and the token market massively by April, it is totally fair to call the tokens a complete waste of currency. Or nearly complete waste of currency. You can get some MT for it, but here's why that's not a redeeming factor. It's not a redeeming factor because people aren't using those to buy the packs in the token market because they're not sure if the token rewards of the tokens are going to be worth more, right? So if everybody was just like, oh yeah, as soon as I get 10 tokens, I'm going to buy a pack, cool. Then it's not a waste. It's just not worth a whole lot. That's fine. That's acceptable. I don't think the tokens have to be worth a whole lot, right? That's not required for anything. But the tokens are worth nothing. It's just like real life money, right? Robbie himself compared this to the stock market. Money is worthless when it stands still. Money is either depreciating in value or you're increasing the value, right? So with the tokens, it's a static currency if it's just sitting there and you're not spending it on everything. MT and cards change value all the time, right? So if you're spending your tokens on MT right now, you might be getting some value out of it. But if you're spending it to lock in sets, if you're spending MT to lock in sets, you may well have lost value. If you spend tokens if you're sitting on tokens and you're not spending them on packs, you might be losing value. Right? So Average Human Life says, I don't care if those cards will be good. I grinded those tokens and I don't know what to do with them. Should I go for Fireball? Should I buy packs? Should I wait for the update? Exactly what I'm saying. People don't know what they should be doing. And I don't think that's a healthy state for any currency in any game to be in. You should always know. I acquired this. I have that. Right? I acquired this thing, so that means I can do this thing with it. Saying I acquired this thing but I don't know what it's worth, that's a terrible place to be in. Imagine your boss giving you a paycheck and him being like, okay, I'm paying you in this currency, but we won't know what you could buy with it until I let you know. Okay, when are you going to let me know? Stay tuned. Unacceptable, right? Totally unacceptable. Imagine your financial advisor saying, yeah, I invested in this stock, but I don't know where it's going to be. And you're like, so is that a good use of my money? You're like, I don't know. Maybe. When will I know if it's a good use of my money? I don't know. I'll tell you though. When it is, I'll let you know. What if it never is? Ooh, I guess we had a bad day at the office then, huh? That's not acceptable, guys. You know, that's not acceptable. Steve says he agrees. He's sitting on 1,554 tokens. Exactly. Average Human Life says he could have the Fireball if you knew they won't update the token market. Yeah, so this is basically what I'm talking about. So the main if you take anything away from this video, the number one thing is this is not an attack on any individual developer. In fact, it's the opposite. I'm saying the individual developers are not even in the position to be attacked by it, right? The individual developers could want one thing, but 2K being the monolithic organization that it is, could have decided on something else. In fact, it's a safe bet to say that no matter what you think about the game, no matter what opinion you have, there's a developer that feels the same way that you do and agrees with it, and there's a developer on the other side who wants the opposite thing. That's just the nature of any creative company. You know, again, I've worked basically my entire adult life in creative companies. This is how they work. So this is not about going at the developers. This is about the opposite. This is about saying, hey, put the developers in a position, and specifically Robbie and the MyTeam Twitter account, put them in the position to say the community is asking for communication on the token rewards. They're just asking us to talk to them. That's all I'm hearing. That's all I'm hearing from them when the situation of tokens comes up. They're not asking for hands out for cards. They're not asking for, you know, again, Kobe or Galaxy Opal Kareem and none of that stuff. They're just saying, hey, man, you need to tell us what to do with this currency. We can't have currencies in the game that we don't know what to do with. That's an unhealthy state of any video game that has currencies in it. Every currency has to have an understood and established value. And that's my entire point with this, really. Me personally, I'm not personally invested in it. I have virtually every card I want. The only card I don't have that I want is probably Kevin Durant. I could get that card if I wanted to like really sell out for it, but I don't need it at this stage because I'm mostly making content. I'm not really playing the game enough that, you know, playing Kevin Durant would make a big difference to me. I don't personally care what they do with the tokens. I have like 300 on my main account. This account I haven't touched in months, and it still has, I don't know what it has, like 150 or something like that, and I'm not even playing this account. So look, if they put out something nice, cool. If they don't, I'll spend it on packs. Doesn't really matter to me. What does matter to me is that this community is always moving towards a healthy state. And 2K being such a gigantic game, 2K is simultaneously this card mode like Madden Ultimate Team. It's simultaneously an MMO like World of Warcraft and Destiny with the Park. It's simultaneously this, you know, team-based competitive online mode like Overwatch. It's simultaneously this franchise-based mode like the show. They have so many game modes, and all of those game modes normally require community managers. And 2K is in a situation where they have 0 community managers when they probably need 4. Right? So that's not a healthy situation for the game to be in. And I constantly see the 2K community ebb and flow with good behavior and bad behavior. And 2K, this is just my personal opinion, I don't think they take a lot of responsibility for the way the community behaves. And listen, the community is a bunch of individuals, so 2K is not entirely responsible for the way the community behaves. But any relationship, you are 50% responsible for what's going on in the relationship, right? That's just any relationship. You are 50% responsible. The relationship is built on what you allow yourself to do, how you allow yourself to be treated, and how you allow other people to trust you. And if you look at what 2K has done, the way they've allowed themselves to not communicate, and the way they have treated the community in terms of, you know, lack of communication, lack of updates, and so on and so forth, they're culpable in how the community responds. They're not responsible but they are culpable. They have participated in that. And I know they don't want a toxic community. It's extraordinarily stressful to have a community of 8 to 10 million people all acting toxic, all spamming your Twitter. You can't post anything without them being like, where's the token reward updates, right? Like, nobody wants that. The people who want the token reward updates don't want to be on Twitter yelling at you. You don't want to be on Twitter trying to talk about this new great thing that such and such worked on all this time, right? We all want the same thing. We want the game in a healthy place. And it's my opinion that the game would be in a much healthier place if there wasn't an entire economy in the game that is just a big fat mystery box that there's zero communication on. And as a community, we have limited resources in terms of our ability to influence 2K to communicate. Because the fact of the matter is, if every single developer at 2K would love to be like, hey, this is what's going on with the token rewards, and one shareholder is like, don't do that, chances are they're not going to do that. Right? That's just the reality of gaming in general. That's the reality of big companies. If the producer and the director of your big movie is like, yeah, we want to tell the fans this, we want to use this poster, and the dude in charge of Chinese investment is like, nah, don't do that poster, it won't work in China, that poster's getting changed. Every actor, every producer, every director could be on board with that decision, and it is what it is. However, if it's a development side decision, if it's a producer side decision to simply not communicate to the community because something isn't ready, because they're planning something and it's just not done yet, because there's a technical issue, or because there's no updates coming and they're afraid of the backlash, then it is my belief that in 2K's interest, in the community's interest, and in terms of the general health of the game, it would be much better for them to just communicate with the community, treat us all like adults, and then it's on the community to behave like adults and respond, in turn, and be honest and be as truthful as you can be. I don't know if that's even a reality, but that's what the community deserves, 100%. And the thing is, I don't know too many companies that have a currency in the game that's just a complete mystery for half of the game cycle. We're halfway through the cycle, and not only is the currency not worth much, but we don't know if it's going to be worth anything, and we have no word on whether or not that's going to change. That's a trifecta that is completely abnormal. And I really don't like seeing people talk about the finances of 2K, because you don't have the finances of 2K. Right? I don't care what you feel, what you've heard, what you've read, and all that stuff. Unless you literally have a spreadsheet of 2K's projections, their costs, and their earnings, you are not qualified to say they did this specific thing for this specific financial reason. You're just not. You're just not qualified to say that. That's what happens when people get frustrated and they don't have answers and they have to start reaching. They have to start grasping at straws. And my problem with that, listen, I mean, I don't care if you go online and make a whole video saying something stupid. I don't care if you tweet saying something stupid on an individual level. My problem is, as the community, the thing that you want is you want better communication. You want 2K to be straight with you. But then when you go and you say something ridiculous, like this developer is working on this now, they're not doing that, 2K is doing this because they lost money, so they're just trying to blah, blah, blah. This thing came out about their disappointment, so yada, yada, yada. When you say those things, that allows 2K, instead of having better communication, to have worse communication. They can just now be, and this is just on an individual level, individuals get to say the community doesn't know what they're talking about. Because ridiculous popularized things come out, and certain members of the community parrot them, without knowing whether or not that's true. It's just naked speculation based in very, very, very little, very shallow evidence. You know what I'm saying? And I do know a little bit more about the company than most people. I'm not discussing any of the things that I personally know, because this is just, what I'm talking about is stuff you know if you work at any big company. Any big company. And you would know that you can't comment on finances without knowing certain key specific things. You can't comment on a decision made without knowing on certain things. People talk all the time, I'm going at the developers because this thing is messed up, not knowing that that developer don't even work on that part of the game. That developer gets a result on that part of the game and just has to deal with it. Same way you got to deal with it. 2K is gigantic, right? So 2K being as big as it is, there's people inside the company that can't tell you specifics on the game. That literally can't tell you. There's people that work on my team that if you ask them, hey, does this badge affect this, that, and the other? They'd be like, I don't know. Let me check with so and so about that. Let me check the latest build. Let me see. You know what I'm saying? So my goal with the channel in general is to keep people as informed about the game as possible, and that usually takes the place. It takes the form of card breakdowns. First of all, that's fun. I enjoy my team tremendously. I enjoy the individuality of every card. I love the fact that each card has their own cute little animations that you got to make the best out of and stuff like that. I love it. I love sharing that stuff with you guys, and that's normally the form that informing the community takes place in. But in this case, in the case of this terrible communication about the token rewards, I want to simultaneously, give the community an opportunity to have their communication be better so that they then get the right to demand better communication from 2K. Because if you communicate poorly, you have no, I don't want to say right, but you're on very bad footing to ask 2K to communicate better. So if you've been toxic towards any developer, if you've tweeted something wholly untrue, if you've taken one article and drawn an incredible fantasy conclusion that makes no sense to anybody working at 2K, you don't have the right, or you're not on good footing to say, hey, talk to me like an adult. They can say, I would, but you're unreasonable. I would, but you say crazy things. But if you come up every day and you're just like, hey man, I'd love better communication on this. Hey man, the way this thing is not spoken to us about, the way you're not communicating on this subject is a serious problem because it doesn't allow us to make good decisions with our time and money spent on the game. They have no choice but to either act toxic in their own way by continuing to not communicate, by continuing to ignore you, or they have to say, hey, the community has been reasonable on this subject. We have to be better. So that's the main thing, is I would love for the MyTeam community, when it comes to the token reward and the token market updates and the lack of communication, to force 2K to communicate better. To put them into a position where they know they have to treat you better than they've been treating you. Because they're not treating you well. I don't know why they're not treating you well. They might be in a bad position, technically. When I say financially, I don't mean how much money they have. They have plenty of money. But in terms of, it may threaten their finances to make certain decisions about the token reward market and the token market. That might be true. I don't know. But whatever position they're in, they have an obligation to communicate better with the people spending, collectively millions of dollars and millions of hours on their game. All right? So that's pretty much going to wrap up this subject. If you guys have anything y'all want to say in the chat regarding it, I'd be happy to respond and address it now. And until you do, I'm going to turn this into a side little Lamar Odom is not outdated video. This card is not outdated in my opinion. He's a legitimate 6'10". He's got a 93 3-point and a 93 mid-range with coaching boost, which is outstanding. Gold range extender, 90 dunk. There's only 91 ball handle at 6'10". There's only one thing about this card that is outdated. One tiny thing. His perimeter defense is a 93. This is still one of the better cards in the game. This is the only thing about this card that's outdated. Right here. It's that 81 speed. This card needs a speed shoe to keep up. But if it wasn't for that 81 speed, and if you put a speed coach on him, this card is still as good as many of the cards in the game. When this card came out, I said this card was 40K at one point. I'm like, Lamar Odom is 40K, and he's basically a Kevin Durant card. And I said he's going to hold the place of Kevin Durant until Kevin Durant comes out. And I think that's exactly what this card was, and I think that's what this card still is basically. He's still a diet version of the Galaxy Opal Kevin Durant in so many ways. This card is so good. He has so many good animations. Miggy Me says, I'm sorry, but 81 speed at this stage of the game makes you obsolete. I mean, I think it definitely hurts you but his speed with the ball is pretty good. And you can see he's still really explosive. He still shoots really well. And there's cars being played at a 90 speed. So if you put a shoe on him and he goes to an 84 speed, I don't think that 5 speed difference, particularly on a 6'10, who keep in mind taller characters are faster than shorter characters. So if you're going to run an 89 speed, who is it that's 89 speed? Is it Rex Chapman? It's one of those cars that's an 89 speed that everybody really likes. If you're going to run an 89 speed guard, you can definitely run an 84 speed 6'10, in my opinion. Yeah, Carson Cruz says his speed is so much faster than the stats read. I totally agree. I mean, if you just look at the card on screen, he's clearly moving faster than an 81. What are my top 3 favorite modes in the game books? Matt Skizzy asked me. You said, why am I not greening releases? Honestly, Brendan, I'm not even paying attention to releases. I'm just kind of doing dribble moves and pressing square. But he has a fantastic green release window. When I was playing him in TTO, I would hit with him all the time. I turned the shot meter off and all of that stuff. So yeah, he has a phenomenal release. I was honestly just talking and not really looking at it. But you can green every shot with him, like literally every shot in a row. What are my top 3 favorite modes? So right now in order, it's my team number 1. A close second is Park, and then third would be Rec. My least favorite mode is my career. I think my career is a total disaster this year. And I haven't gotten into Play Now or my league. The main reason being is my career and my team are too grindy for me to play those modes and completely lose out. Although if you're going to lose out in any mode, I would say it's probably my team does a pretty good job with the daily like free stuff. If you don't play this mode for several weeks and you just put in every locker code and you have a bunch of outdated cards, you can just sell all your stuff and rebuild a good team that's relevant with like a budget squad. Like with 50 to 100k MT, you can build a squad that's not like barely competitive but like extremely competitive. So I think you can go away from my team for a while if you have a team, and I am going to make a video on that. But with my career, if your player needs to be 99, you just got to get those games done and get that card get that player done. Then once you have the skills, you can play that mode whenever you want. But if your player is not built up, that's a lot of hours that you just can't replace in other modes. And my league would take away from that, even though I would like to play in my league at some point this year. I'll probably do it right before 2K20 comes out, when I have more time to play. As it is right now, I have fairly severe work deadlines that I'm also doing. So I basically have time to acquire the cards, make videos, and occasionally play park or rec with my friends like once or twice on the weekends. And I don't have time to play outside of that. And this is not including the fact that I don't have time to play like Call of Duty, which I like a lot. I'm not playing any fighting games, which I like to play a lot. A whole bunch of other games I like to play a lot that I just don't have time to play. So that's why I can't play a mode like my GM or my league, which I do think might be pretty good this year, even though I do have a lot of problems with the way the 5v5 plays offensively and defensively. My career is dumb easy on Hall of Fame. It's actually more difficult on All-Star this year. It makes no sense. Yeah, so here's the problem with my career is your teammates. Well, my career is the least fun that it's ever been. And the AI plays you the same defensively almost no matter what. So whether I'm playing a shooter or a slasher, the AI is going to sag off of me on pick and rolls and pressure me when I come across full court, right? So when I come across full court with my slasher, I literally just you don't have to do anything. You can literally just keep walking forward like this. The player is going to slide behind you, and then you dunk when you get close to the basket. Like, it's horrible. The AI is way too aggressive. And when I say aggressive, I mean it leads to you blowing out the AI and playing the game the same way. I feel like with my career, somebody made the decision that they didn't want people scoring a whole bunch of points in my career. And every year, my career has had this increased aggressiveness on defense where the player, they're going to treat you like you're Michael Jordan and you're super hot, even if you're a 71 rated overall. Like they double team you, they pressure you at half court, and it just leads to the game mode being easy because the more you pressure somebody, the more you open up the court for me to either drive to the basket or get assists. and the only thing they've succeeded in taking away is organic 3-point opportunities. And so instead of getting regular 3-point opportunities that you would get from giving it to a hot teammate and having him pass to you, that basically never happens in 2K, or running a play because they're going to smother you, so that never happens in 2K. What you're going to get instead is you have to call a pick and roll and let them sag off you. And if they change the sag off in the pick and roll, that's just going to be more dunks, and you're never going to be able to get threes because they're going to be like take away the 3-pointer at all costs. You see it in my team too. Like when you're coming up court in my team and you're right here playing against the AI, they completely ignore the paint. They don't play you at all, and they try to close out to you like right there, and you can just run around the side and just dunk on them. Every time, no matter what player you're controlling, they always do the same thing. So the AI is just too brain dead dumb on defense for the mode to be fun because there's no different styles. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm playing against a long defender, so he's going to guard me off the dribble this way, or this guy's short, so I can go into the post and double team. It doesn't matter. If you press L trigger to post up, the team's going to double team you no matter what the situation, like 100% of the time. So if you want to get double teamed in my team and you want to get open 3-point shots, just hold L trigger and they'll double team you like idiots. Again, no matter which player you're playing, and somebody's going to be wide open. And it would be even easier if when double teams happen, your teammates didn't start running around like crazy people. I don't know why that happens. Hopefully we'll get it fixed next year. But that's the main reason I'm not really super excited to play my league or my GM. Even though playing my team, I've gotten so much more used to 5v5 because the last 3 years I've just been playing Park and Rec Center in my career. I would be more excited if the computer behaved better, both in double teams. If your 3-point shooters didn't run off the 3-point line when they were wide open, like it's like as soon as you press pass, they start running into the paint, which is extraordinarily frustrating. And it seems like your big men want to be on the 3-point line and your guards want to run into the paint. And that, for me, makes me look at 5v5 like, I know I'm going to be forcing 5v5 to be fun. Because if I play 5v5 the way 5v5 wants me to play, I can just dunk the ball every time. Like that's the real way to play 5v5. Like if you're saying forget that this is basketball, forget that I want the game to be fun, my objective is to beat the computer. What's the computer giving me? All you're going to do is just run into the paint and dunk every time. Or press post up, let the computer double team you, wait till your teammates stop running around the perimeter, and then hit the open man and get the 3. Like those are the only two things you need to do in 5v5 to score every single time. And that sucks because 2K, I'm going to do a video on this probably before 2K21 comes out, comparing 2K17 and 2K16 to 2K20. Those games are more fun. They play more fun, honest, better basketball games, in my opinion. Even though they're not as technical, and boy oh boy do I love the play calling and Czar's freelances as they've gotten better and better since 2K15. Like seriously, I think it's one of the greatest inventions in basketball gaming history. The way the freelancers run, the way the players behave in freelancers, the way they run plays. They've got the speed of the play running down to a T in certain situations. The computer's intelligent enough to make certain adjustments. It's come so far in that regard. Unfortunately, for every step it's taken forward when it comes to the complicated stuff like screen the screener and properly running a zipper cut and all that stuff, for all that stuff that's really good, the computer defends the pick and roll like they're insane. They defend the pick and roll like they've lost their minds. You call a screen and the computer literally like is running out of bounds, sliding all over the place. All you did was call a screen, and they're just smothering you. They're all on top of you, like you threaten their kids. Like you told them your wife is in the basement, and if you don't get the ball out my hands right now, she's gone. You hear what I'm saying? Like, why are they playing the pick and roll like that? That's not intelligent defense at all representative of real life. I saw in one of the 2K TV videos, Scott O'Gallagher was like, yeah, the way you play defense is you pick up a half court and you guide them to the baseline. Do you guys see that on every play in an NBA game? Because I don't. I don't see people picking up what Russell Westbrook at the logo and letting him run past them because that's what he would do. NBA players are too fast for you to do that all the time. Giannis Antetokounmpo, arguably the greatest slasher in history. How do they guard him? They go to the free throw line and they hold arm in arm like the Jackson 5, and they form a wall against him. Does the 2K AI do that? No. They try to catch Giannis on the Lakers symbol, And what happens? He runs past them every single time, 100% of the time. Brandon Bowles asked, "What's good with Big Czar?" Czar is just taking some care of some personal stuff, man. He all right. He doing well. Spoke to him not too long ago. I'm sure when he's ready to talk to the community, he will be doing so. But understand, Czar has 9 kids and a full-time job, so Czar always got something to do. So when Czar disappears, it's probably just because he had to get groceries for 9 people, plus Big Mama. But yeah, Czar's good. You said full receiver control will also get your spacing right. Carson, so here's my problem with full receiver control. It adds such a delay on the icon passing. Like it makes icon passing mad slow. And that is what gets me. Is I love the idea of full receiver control, and I love it when I'm doing full receiver control, but when I'm doing regular icon passing, I do not love it at all. So that's my main beef with that. Hey, what's his Lamar Odom has some of the best animations in the game, man. If you think this card is obsolete, you crazy. You are bugging. Like I would highly doubt anybody who really knows how to dribble thinks this card is like unusable now. I can't see it. And what's Bam's speed? At 87 speed? They're the same height. So he's got with no shoe, and everybody does not have a speed shoe on Bam. With no shoe, Bam is 6 points higher in speed, so you can't play Lamar Odom. I don't believe that's true. His animations are too good. Maskizzy, full receiver control is a setting in your options where you can have, instead of having the icon passing be that you just pass to the player, then when you hold the button of the icon, it allows you full control of that player. The good thing about that is you can direct the way people move, which will give you a lot more scoring opportunities when you play the game. It's a really optimal strategy for your offense when you're doing it. The bad part is that it's slower because and this is a problem with any video game. If you have any like release input or any like hold input, the game needs to know whether or not you're holding the button, right? So it's why pump fakes are not super fast, right? So you see how slow a pump fake is? It's because the game is asking, are you shooting or are you pump faking? It needs to ask you first, which one are you doing? You said, Books, there really isn't much cheese at all this year in 1v1 Pro-Am Park. I don't know if I agree with that. I think dexing is still a major problem in the game. If you guys don't know what dexing is, it's when you hold the post up button basically and you run around the player and you get stuck on their back, like in the backpack position. That's still a cheese that's very effective. And the number one cheese, let me do it real quick. It is the number one right here, nearly unstoppable. Boom. That move is a bit of cheese. Another move that's cheese is the reverse dunks. They are very, which I didn't do for some reason. Reverse dunks are really, really, really hard to block in this game. They're very hard to stop. They'll go in at a much higher clip than they're supposed to. And the other cheese is the very close to the basket post fade. If you do that in Park, that's like, it's impossible to contest from under the basket, and it goes in almost every time for bigs. So there is still cheese in the game. It's just, you know what? People only look for cheese off the dribble. That's the problem. Is there dribble cheese? No. No, they've taken almost every good dribble move out of the game, although there are still good ones. You know, like that's a really great dribble move, particularly on a character that can shoot. This change of direction is really strong. So there are still some decent dribble moves, but no, you can't zigzag left to right all day every day like you could before. I don't know if that's as good of a thing as people think it is because they never fixed the defensive movement. So taking all of the good dribble moves out of the game was a band-aid for not having good defensive movement. So I don't know if I would call that a fix so much as it is. And this is a problem 2K is having in general, right? The more you balance a game, the less fun, the more you move away from fun. I saw Agent Zero talking about this before. He's absolutely right. And this is not a 2K problem. It's a problem with all games. So you put in all this great stuff, but it's basically impossible to deal with. But it's really fun. And there's some fighting games that are like that, like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, famous for it. People said this game is just like the crackhead game of all fighting games, but it was so ridiculously fun. Super cheesy game. One of the cheesiest fighting games of all time, but also really, really fun. And this is the problem with old 2Ks. Are they cheesy? Yes, they are. But they're also really creative. And 2K20 is the least creative 2K game there is. Almost everybody plays the same way. There's basically three playing styles. People trying to ISO with the very few dribble moves that there are was really two, and screen and roll. And when it comes to screen and roll, pick and roll, there's two. There's on-ball pick and roll and off-ball screen and roll. And that's it. That's the three playing styles. There's no, this guy likes more of a post game. This guy's more of a mid-range post fade kind of shot creator guy, and blah blah blah. They reduce the effectiveness of moving shots, so you don't have to sell out on moving shots anymore. You can kind of give that shot up. They nerfed range extender, which I'm not saying it shouldn't be nerfed, but they nerfed range extender, so the court isn't quite as spread, so there's not quite as much room. And they also, here's the number one problem, honestly, is not even the dribbling, it's the passing lanes. And this is a problem affecting all game modes. They need to reduce the effectiveness of standing in passing lanes stealing the ball. You should have to guess what kind of pass is coming, what direction the pass is coming, and there should be many, many, many more deflections and tips and like weird catches off of tips than there are outright steals and outright pass completions. Right now, passing is a zero-sum game, and it's really hard to pass in this game if someone's playing the passing lanes. And this is every game mode at the very highest levels of the game. All top-level strategies is basically working around people being in the passing lanes. How do you avoid getting the ball stolen in passing lanes? That's what most strategies come down to. How you take screens and all that stuff is about avoiding passing lane cheese. And the ability to pass is what makes basketball basketball. So until we get the ability to pass back, the game is going to be a very ugly game. And the other thing is until on-ball defense becomes more honest and less about slamming into the offensive player, because that's what it is. It's about slamming into the offensive player. Creating contact with the offensive player and letting clamps take over, letting the body up animations take over. And until it goes back to positional defense, which is what it was in 2K16 and 17. It was about positional defense. It's about being in front of the player. Right? So until it goes back to being in front of the player, you're no longer, the game is not going to be a pretty game. It's not going to be a fun game in that regard. I'm not saying the game's not as fun at all. Like I said, I'm having fun with the game. But the least fun part of the game is really, let's be real, is really the gameplay. I mean, for me, it's the least fun part of the game, is the actual gameplay. Like, the gameplay itself is extraordinarily frustrating for the most part. That's why I like the park the best, because there's enough space in the park that all of the flaws in 2K don't come out. I would throw Triple Threat Online in there. The only problem with Triple Threat Online is Triple Threat is tuned differently than the park. So players are very slippery in Triple Threat, so it's very, very hard to stop everybody from just running around each other. So before you actually play Triple Threat Online, you have to go, okay, is this person just trying to run around me? Okay, they're running around me, so let me dedicate resources to stopping that. Okay, I've convinced them that they can't just run around to the baseline in a circle all day, so now maybe I can get them to start playing this mode for the fun way that it should be played. Now, if you were playing, if you could play friends in Triple Threat Online, it would be so fun. If people were just like, okay, look, we're not going to try and run around each other all day unless you screw up on defense, and you just had that agreement, Triple Threat Online would be massively fun. Because it's a game mode divorced from most of the problems in the rest of 2K. But unfortunately, they made on-ball defense so slippery. Like, literally, there's almost no... And this is MyTeam across the board. There's so few collisions in MyTeam on-ball defense to off... Like, when it comes to on-ball defense to on-ball offense. Like, if you just run into somebody's chest, your character just keeps pushing them into the paint. I have no idea why that happens. 2K games never used to be made that way. And the rest of 2K is not like that. If you try to do that in a park, you're going to get stonewalled completely. I don't know why this mode is created so differently when people can just have really bad attacks on the basket and they can just slide past you. But if you're behind them, you can jump over their back, put your elbow into the back of their head, block the ball, have the ball hit your belly button, get a behind the back shot contest that you had no right to get because you were completely beat But so defending from behind is much stronger than defending from the front. And until they fix that, it's the gameplay is always going to be somewhat of a all right, I got 2K'd. You know what I mean? There's going to be so much of you're getting 2K'd right now, which is unfortunate. D White says books, you're speaking facts. Yo, I appreciate that, D White, and everybody watching, thanks so much for the support. I see a lot of likes already, so I appreciate that. If you haven't liked already and you haven't subscribed, please get on that, support the channel, keep it going. And guys, I mean that's pretty much it for this. I got to get back to work soon. If you guys have anything on the token market you want to add, let me know. I'd be happy to read your opinions on the subject on the chat, because I think better communication across the board is like one of the biggest issues with the 2K community right now. But let's start small. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I want the whole 2K company and community and game to have better communication as a whole, but we can start with the token market, because that's an in-game currency tied to real life currency and real life time, and not having good communication in that area, we all agree that's unacceptable. I would expect that if Robbie was able to speak freely, I don't know this for a fact, but I would bet that if Robbie was able to speak freely, he would agree that it's unacceptable to not let the community know what your plans are for the token market and the token rewards. To not know what they would call in Destiny, they would call it a roadmap, right? To not know what the roadmap is for the token market, for the token rewards, is unacceptable. I'm sure any reasonable person can agree with that. And so on that basis, look at his triple threat movement. This card is ridiculous. Ooh, they better not release a pink diamond. Oh my god, this card's so good. So you don't know why they updated all the collector cards but neglect the token market? Okay, I'm glad you said that, Raider, because that's the kind of thing that makes the community toxic, because the community could very easily and reasonably, right? I'm not even going at the community for this. You can very reasonably say, hey, the only reason you updated the collector rewards is because that has to do with increasing online activity, and to play people online you need better cards, and to get better cards you need to spend money, right? Now I don't think any of that is 100% true the way it's stated, but there's some truth in it. And if the community came at you with that and said, well, you're not updating collector rewards for that reason, I mean, you're not updating, you know what I'm saying. You're not updating the token market, you're not updating the triple threat offline Galaxy Opals for that reason, you're not updating the Domination Galaxy Opal for that reason, that's fair. That's fair for the community to say. You know what I mean? Like, you can't blame the community for having that perspective. And that's one of the things I'm talking about, that if people start making videos of, this is the reason they're not updating Dominique Wilkins and Serge Ibaka and blah, 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 this is the reason right here. Listen, man, I mean, I think I'm not going to say it's ridiculous, because I think it's reasonable to say that. I think it's ridiculous to say that that's the reason. It's not ridiculous to say that, you suspect that's the reason. But to say that that's the reason, as if this isn't a company with a billion things going on, I think that's a little, if you're right, it's because you're lucky. Like, it's not necessarily true. You know what I mean? But that having been said, that's one of the many ways in which, if the community starts with these storylines that the community gets into their heads, it's your fault, okay? You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's on you to some degree. Books, what's the best way to defend elite PGs in the PNR this year? What game mode are you talking about, Irv? Because if you're talking about Park, the number one way is to communicate with your big. And I mean, I guess it's the same for Park and MyTeam, really, is you have to pick up, number one is to pick up on your opponent's tendencies. Are they trying to drive to the basket? Do they have their hezzy three-point game down? Do they have their release down with their card? Are they looking for that three-point space? MyTeam Unlimited? Yo, you asking the wrong guy for MyTeam Unlimited information. I will let you guys know when I'm like a really good, super competitive MyTeam Unlimited player. I do not have the time to be a competitive 2K player right now in a new game mode, which MyTeam Unlimited would be new for me, right? So, in terms of personal you know, like tactics. So I can't really in good faith tell you that. You know what I mean? I have a long way to go in terms of getting the AI to behave the way I want them to behave. I mean, fundamentally, it comes down to the same stuff in terms of fundamentally, but I would have to play really, really elite guards over and over and over in my team unlimited and stop them repeatedly to give you an answer that I knew was definitive. You know what I'm saying? Now in Park, I can tell you how to stop an elite guard on the pick and roll. You know, it starts with communicating with your big first and foremost, and then you have to bait them into the shots you want them to take, and if worse comes to worse, give up the two. That's what it comes down to. You know, so in the way players play in this game in general, it usually comes down to one of two ways. Either they're trying to get you stuck in an animation. Well, really, they're trying to get you stuck into an animation so that they can shoot. And the animation is going to be really one of three things. Either you're going to be going the wrong way, you're going to get stuck on a screen, or you're going to jump. Right? So then, by that token, the tactics would be to avoid any animations where you get stuck. So you don't want to get stuck into any screen animations. You don't want to jump, and you don't want to be too obviously going the wrong way. Right? So how do you do that? You do that by keeping your player free. Well, what's the benefit of that? The benefit of that is that they know that you can always press triangle and ruin their shot contest and turn it into a fast break. So now, if they know that, you've already won the first battle, which is to not get them thinking. They can just at will, hezzy pull up whenever they want to. They can't just, zigzag behind the screen and then hezzy pull up at the drop of a hat. They have to think about what you're doing. So that's number one. Number two, you have to gamble sometimes and you have to guess right. And when you gamble and guess right, then, well, you've stopped them, right? So you've lowered their efficiency and you've lowered their percentage. So now it's on them to have the mental strength to be like, okay, he guessed right on me. He's not going to guess right every time. I have to trust my gameplay and trust my release. And now you have effectively done the most that you could do. Because the pick and roll is unstoppable in every version of basketball that exists. It's unstoppable if you go down the street and play at the playground. It's unstoppable in NBA. It's unstoppable in college. It's unstoppable in 2K. It's not stoppable. But what you have to do is you have to take away the best option, which is for 2K, wide open threes, especially wide open hezzy threes. That's the number one option you got to take away. You cannot allow your opponent to hezzy three ball over and over again, because quite frankly, it's just an easy shot. It's a really easy shot to green because it's the same shot every time. And that's why I made, 2 videos plus all of the additional videos on it, because it's the same timing, right? Like the way 2K works is every other shot that you get besides the hezzy three-pointer, it depends on how you caught it, the speed of the pass, whether your player had their feet planted, blah, blah, blah. So your shot timing might be slightly different depending on all these other factors. Whether or not you're dribbling, right? Like even if you're at a standstill while you're dribbling, did you have to move? But the hezzy three-pointer is the most powerful weapon in the game because it's always the same exact shot release, and there's a massive green window when you do it. So if you can just get this shot basically every time you want to, you're going to hit it every time. And that makes it a completely deadly lethal weapon. So you have to take that shot away from them if they have it. Lucky for the MyTeam community, only a relatively small percentage of people actually use this. This is quite regular in the park. If you play against a shooting archetype in the park, you better believe they're hitting you off with that, every single time. Raider says, I've been sitting on 1800. You said, dude, very few dudes hezzy pull up in unlimited. Most dudes jack threes or try to post cheese with the big. Yeah, Carson, that's why I think for the MyTeam community at large, which is why it's like, look, I'm extraordinarily happy to be busy with work. But it's a shame I don't have more time to play, because my goal as a player is I want to play this game. I want to understand how you guys play the game mode thoroughly, in and out. I want to know all the stuff you guys doing, from the zone cheesing, playing the passing lanes, all of the pick and roll stuff, all of the plays you guys like, all of the freelances. But then I want to bring what I know works from the park that I. Oh, by the way, I mean guys like Jomar are already doing this, so it's not like nobody in the MyTeam community is doing it. But I don't think it's been popularized yet, and this happens in every competitive game. If you look at the very very top of the competitive community, there's always people doing something that it takes sometimes years for the rest of the community to do. And for 2K20, the number one thing in that regard is the hezi pull up. That's the number one thing that literally every player should be doing that at every opportunity that they get. And in the MyTeam community, they're not. A lot of the other stuff I show you guys is still good. Like, don't get me wrong. Like some of the, like the Pro 3 back and forth stuff, super effective, really really strong. Don't get me wrong. Like all of the step back stuff, really good. The killer crossover, great move. Don't get me wrong. But the hezi into pull up, that should be the bread and butter of everybody who plays this game mode. Like that should be the first thing you do is like, what's their hezi pull up look like? How am I opening up opportunities for the hezi pull up? It's the strongest, most important move in the entire game. It's like playing Street Fighter and not knowing how to throw a fireball. Like we're just at that stage in the community where people aren't. It just hasn't caught up to them. And again, you see it in the tournaments. The highest level players, they use it all the time. So that's why I have the confidence to say, hey, everybody needs to know how to do this. Orlando Teal said you thought it would be the momentum dribble. No, you don't need the momentum dribble. I mean, first of all, there's other dribbles besides the momentum dribble that change directions, right? So you've got the well, Lamar can't do it, but you've got the behind the back, and then you got this dribble, that dribble right there, which changes directions very quickly, right? Which is like a different form of the pro hezi crossover. So there's a bunch of ways to skin that cat when it comes to changing directions, and I haven't even gotten into like rollouts and stuff on this channel. So there's when it comes to changing directions, you can go a lot of ways. In fact, even the hezi is a way to change directions just by exploding out of it. You can explode out of the hezi, and because you can go the same way, there is a mix up in that. So you don't necessarily need the momentum to do that. So the momentum is not as important, A, because it's been nerfed in recent years, but B, because there's other ways to do that. Whereas the hezi pull-up is the only way to consistently exploit bad defense on the three-point line in as little time as possible with maximum efficiency both as a user and with the cards and ratings and animation frames and all of that. It's the shortest amount of time. It's the shortest amount of space. Like the player completely stands still when they do it. It's the same shot timing every time. And it also maximizes your badges and ratings because it's not a moving shot. So it is the elite #1 most important move you need to learn. And you need to learn it with every card at a high level to be the best MyTeam player you can possibly be. Now, luckily for the community, most people don't do it, so it's not like a regular thing where you come up with somebody who's doing that to you and blowing you out. But it will. It will. Mark my words, it will become a popular technique and it will become something everybody has to deal with. It might not be this year. If it's still in the game, it'll definitely happen at some point next year, I would assume. Because again, these techniques always trickle down, and if you saw it in the MyTeam Unlimited tournament, then you definitely are going to see it in the streets. But it's just going to take a while for the average user to catch up. And it takes longer for the average user to catch up in MyTeam because you have the auction house and the thrill of getting the cards you want and all that stuff. But believe me, I was thrilled when I saw Jomar using the running hezi, and I forgot who it was. It was during the 250K qualifiers. Somebody with T-Mac, they couldn't do the behind the back, so they was doing that behind screens. And they were using like the misdirection version of it where they were like, going the other way with it and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, these guys are using, all of the elite park stuff these guys are using in MyTeam. That's why they're so good. You said I need to get Shake Milton? Oh, yeah, I'll get Shake Milton. What's Shake Milton's price? Let me see. I got to use this MT on this account for my series. Otherwise, I'd get him now. But I do want to do a rebuild from scratch video. Take my outdated. So I haven't touched this account in months, and this is what my roster looks like from way back when. Right. So this is you guys can see how old this roster is. 'Cause I think the last card I bought when I was actually paying attention to this account was Joel Embiid. Everybody else I got when they were like really hot in the streets. See, the bench is almost completely unusable now. I would say Morris is still somewhat usable, and Brook Lopez is okay. Schroeder's okay. Everybody else has to be subbed out. Chris Paul is not really a usable card, but there's a lot of cheap point guards now, which is why I want to make the series, because it's like I've got 4 cards that are usable. Kobe and Lamar and Odom and Embiid, I think, are still pretty good. Um, and you know, not top of the meta, but they're still good. They can still hang, right? Like it still comes down to if anything you're at a slight disadvantage. I think because Pascal doesn't have range extender, or ball handling, you're at a bigger disadvantage. But he is still a good role playing card. But everybody else has to be switched out. So I'm going to sell everything I have, and I didn't realize on this account just how many silver cards I had. So I looked at all of the silvers I had. And silver cards are worth a decent amount. So I'm like, all right, if I sell every card and every shoe, what do I have left and what can I make? So I'm going to do a video on that with you guys after I sell all the stuff. I'm not going to sell all the stuff on stream. I'm not going to bore you guys to death. You said you want that Shake. You have an all-Sixers squad. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get the Shake Milton. I'll do. You know what, Carson? So many people have requested Shake Milton. I will definitely do that video. I will probably do that video today. I'm not going to do it on this account because let me see what his price is, though. Let's see what Shake is going for. Hopefully his price came way down because he can barely dunk. So that's what I was hoping for. I didn't want to get him early yesterday because it's like, you just know his price isn't going to hold at 30K. Like, I mean, that would be crazy. Yeah, so 35 at the top page. Let's see what he's looking like. Thanks so much for rocking with me with the stream, y'all. What's up, Jay Battle? How you doing, man? So anybody who's dribbling into the chat late, we already covered the token reward issue. The bottom line is, the entire community should be asking for better communication from 2K. That's really what it is at the end of the day. 2K should feel comfortable to say to the community, this is the roadmap for the token rewards, and this is the roadmap for the token market. Full stop. There's no excuse for an entire in-game currency for them to just zip their lips in and put their heads in the sand and say, we'll get to you when we get to you. I don't think that's acceptable. And I don't think you guys should find that to be acceptable. But the only way to get them to be better is to be reasonable with them, to be fair with them, and be like, hey, we just want better communication. And if you say that over and over, I'm not going to say they have no choice but to respond, but that will put the community in a better position than anything else. Shake's release has that Westbrook green window with Hall of Fame range. Oh, man, you starting to sell me on this Shake Milton, man. You starting to sell me on it a little bit. All right, yeah, I'll have a Shake Milton out for you guys. Probably today, if not today, definitely tomorrow. I'll see if I can snipe him for a little bit better than 34K. But if his price is holding, then I can sell him back at a minimum of loss, and I don't mind that either. But all right, guys, yo, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for all of the likes. Thanks for all of the new subscribers. It was a pleasure discussing this with you guys today. Again, this community has just been absolutely phenomenal. You guys are, all mature, intelligent folks and have expressed yourselves that way. I've received an absolute minimum of foolishness and toxicity. And again, I know I'm not the biggest channel in the world, but listen, you get 1,000 people listening to you, you could get a lot more toxicity than I've received. And I haven't gotten that, and I haven't seen that in this section of the community. A lot of the guys from like 2K Gamer and stuff like that, you guys have been great. Sim Nation has been absolutely fantastic as well. So yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys, and it was a pleasure discussing this with you. So, to close this out, go ahead and hit up Two Brothers Gaming on Twitter, and just say, hey man, can you guys communicate with us about what's going on with the update? Let us know what a roadmap would be like. We would like better communication on this subject. And I believe Robbie will eventually come out and address it. And the main thing for me is not even for this year, because this year is kind of a waste, but really for next year. Because if you have a whole another year of this, that's really unacceptable, man. It would be really unacceptable to have a whole year of this kind of communication. All right? So thanks so much. This has been Books Nelson from the At Me Bro Show. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.